It's time for Sick and Twisted Bible Stories for Children, told from an adult perspective from a children's book, My Book of Bible Stories, Chapter 4, Why They Lost Their Home. You think these scriptures just fell out of a coconut tree? We need to contextualize them for the culture, the audience, and the traditions that existed when they were written and what came before them. See what's happening now. Adam and Eve are being put out of the beautiful Garden of Eden. Do you know why? It is because they did something very bad, and so Jehovah is punishing them. Do you know what the bad thing Adam and Eve did? They did something God told them not to do. God told them they could eat food from the trees of the garden, but from one tree God said not to eat, or else they would die. He kept that tree as his own, and we know it is wrong to take something that belongs to somebody else, don't we? Well, what happened? Faraj is pictured here with his beloved father, whom he tragically lost at the start of the attack on Gaza. While receiving cancer treatment in the West Bank, Faraj has been unable to meet his newborn baby Rafiq or properly grieve the loss of his father. Rafiq recently broke his hand, and there's no medical treatment or pain medication for this little baby. His family, now displaced and without possessions, face the immense challenge of feeding a baby and caring for young children. Gifting, reposting, sharing, and spreading the word about Faraj and his family is a powerful way to offer support during this incredibly difficult time. Well, what happened? One day when Eve was alone in the garden, a snake spoke to her. Think of that. It told Eve to eat fruit from the tree from which God told them not to eat. Now, when Jehovah made the snakes, he did not make them so they could talk. So this can only mean that something else was making the snake speak. Who was that? If you didn't know, it's in Genesis 2 where Adam gets the instructions not to eat from that specific tree in the garden. Eve was not privy to that conversation. Who was that? It wasn't Adam, so it had to be one of the persons that Jehovah made long before he made the earth. Those persons are angels, and we cannot see them. This one angel had become very proud. He began thinking that he should be ruler like God, and he wanted people to obey him instead of obeying Jehovah. He was the angel that made the snake talk. So immediately they're painting a narrative of Jesus being created first, angels being created first, because they need this evil entity to enter into the Garden of Eden story via the snake. That tradition does not come until like Second Temple theology, and then later possibly there's an indication in Revelation of angels being sent down, but it is not in the story, in the creation stories that we read. Remember, they're putting Jesus and angels before the days of creation, where there is no indication of that happening. This angel was able to fool Eve. When he told her that she would become like God if she ate the fruit, she believed it. So she ate, and Adam did too. Adam and Eve disobeyed God, and that is why they lost their beautiful garden home. But someday God will see to it that the whole earth is made as pretty as the Garden of Eden. Later, we will learn how you will share in making it this way. But now let's find out what happened to Adam and Eve. What do I mean by did these scriptures fall out of a coconut tree, or do we need to read them in the context they were written? I'm trying to say that we could argue about the he said, she said details in the Garden of Eden story, but I think we're overlooking the undercurrent and the symbolism that is presented there. Serpents held deep symbolic significance in the SWANA region. They were seen as mediator between the worlds. They could travel throughout the worlds into the chthonic region, up into the heavenly realm. In imagery, when they are depicted upright, that means the divine energy is flowing through them. When they are cast down, as in the curse in Genesis, it means the divine has been cut off from them. Eve was named Em-Kol-I, which means mother of all living things, which is a title that was held in deep regard for Asherah. Interestingly enough, Eve's name is Hawa in Hebrew, which means life. During the time these stories were being written in the Persian period and Hellenistic period, Hivya, Huvya, Hayat are all words for snake, which phonetically sound a lot like Hawa. Bible authors loved puns, so that is just something to think about. In the SWANA region, they would have been able to see the connection to fertility, life, trees, snakes, with the powerful mother goddess, alongside those same symbols reoccurring in the Garden of Eden: the regeneration, the living forever, the knowledge, wisdom. In the end, it's going to be up to us to decide how we interpret these stories and engage with them and find out if they have a deeper meaning or take them on surface level. That is going to be up to you. This is my interpretation thus far. To me, there is a clear narrative in the Garden of Eden story of laying the blame on women, of God making the perfect man, Eve being an afterthought, and her making this grave mistake that affected the world for the rest of our lives. And they have a way out, which will be to live forever in a garden paradise as long as you follow the instructions that you will find in books like these. Well, that's going to end it for Sick and Twisted Bible Stories for Children. And I'll see you next time. Chapter 5, A Hard Life Begins. Trust me, it's going to get worser.